it's just going to sustain that way. You'll also get a good idea about food science and around food safety. And food safety is very critical because you have to practice that at your house, in the food industries, in restaurants, and everywhere, because there's a large-scale consumption of food, and that is basically why food safety is so critical. We'll also cover about a topic on food labels. Again, this is for you to understand what food labels are, and how, when you go and shop for your groceries, you can make a more informed decision in order to have a more healthy diet. Then I'll also cover a topic on nutrition. This is just an overview, and I have covered categories of children under 5, children over 5, teenagers and adults, and what nutrition guidelines they should follow. It's just a snippet, and if you feel you need more information around it, we could then definitely arrange a separate webinar on it. Meal plans. Meal plans is generally around how you can prep your meals, how you can decide ahead so you can stick to a more healthy diet plan. And so I'll share some tips and ideas on how we can do that. And to finish off, we'll talk about diet and disease. This is mainly around disease prevention. So there's a lot of diseases which can happen if you're not following a very good diet, and how including good nutritious food in your lifestyle can help you probably overcome some of these diseases and obviously never get it. So that's basically what we'll cover. So just ahead. Okay. So again, who will benefit from this webinar? We've already covered that. So students and graduates. So I've got a little bit information on around food science and things. And if you have any questions, you can obviously get in touch with me later, and I could help you with that information. Then people in food and agriculture industry, people in restaurants and hospitality, people in healthcare and schools and other institutions, and people in nutrition and fitness industry. So, and to be honest, everyone who either cooks, buys, and eats food. So yeah, it's going to be beneficial for all of you. A little bit about me. So I have been very passionate and curious about food right from the very start. I love to travel, and I learn and cook different world cuisines. So I always wanted to be associated with the food and agriculture industry because I think it is very crucial, and it is literally the starting point. So as soon as we are born, that's the first thing we do, like we start consuming food, and it's really essential for us to grow properly. So that's why I always wanted to be associated with this industry. I completed my bachelor's in technology, in biotechnology in Mumbai, and then I specialized and I did my master's in food biotechnology and nutritional science from the University of Leeds in UK. And I've worked in the food industry for over 10 years, and I've done various different roles. Like I've went and audited suppliers, so we can make sure we're supplying safe food to all of you. Food legislation, I've worked with the European Union, Russia, USA, China. I have also helped in developing new products. So it's a great feeling when you go to a restaurant and you see something that you have developed on the menu there. So it gives you a good, it's a pride moment. It's a proud moment. And then quality and technical management, sensory analysis, benchmarking, labeling regulations, nutrition analysis, and testing. So yeah, I've basically worked in a lot of sectors within the food industry. And different food categories as well. So worked with bakery, confectionery, like chocolates, etc., desserts, fresh produce, like spinach, salad leaves, etc., spices and herbs, meat and poultry, honey, dairy, biopharmaceuticals, and dry goods like beans, pulses. So just a little bit about NutriBoom. So the companies pay a lot for expert information. And this information is not readily available to the general public. And, sorry. Thank you. So yeah, so basically companies, they pay a lot for all these experts to work in those fields and design different menus and recipes that you can go and buy. And this information is usually not available to the general public. So, and if you go and find some of the information on internet, there's an overload of this information. There's a lot of information which can be right, which can be wrong, and you really don't know which one's correct and which you should follow. So people who are from the food background, they might know which ones are more relevant websites and places where you can get those data. So there are science-based databases where you can go and find this information. So I started NutriBoom to basically get this information out to general public, and an information that you can trust on and that will definitely work. And I wanted to get this readily available to everybody, and that's basically why I started NutriBoom. And I have had a lot of happy clients, and they have used those learnings to improve the diets of their families as well. So yeah, they've been happy families as well. Sorry? Am I presenting or not?
No. Ma'am, please resume your presentation. It has
Resume
presentation. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay, so nutrition and health. So basically what I talk about in NutriBoom is about nutrition and health, autoimmune disorders. Now, these are certain disorders which are affected by immunity, but the symptoms can be reduced if you have, or if you include proper nutrition in your diet. Weight management. So a lot of people struggle with weight loss and weight management issues. So this would basically be a good place to start to understand how you can manage your own weight and how you can include certain food and exclude certain food to have a balanced weight and you are in your right BMI. Food allergies. So food allergies has recently become a very serious and a very big issue, especially in relation to food safety, because there's a lot of people who are allergic to certain substances, and we'll cover that in future. And I also look into the skin, hair, and nail health, because a lot of people feel that, you know, their skin's not very good, their hair's not very strong, or their nails are very brittle, and it's all to do with your diet. So you can improve it, and yeah, you would basically see a difference in that. There's a link to it, and I think you can also check on Facebook and Instagram. I've shared the link ahead, so you can have a look at that later. Oops. Okay, and about Abhav Foundation, I think you already probably all know about it, but those who don't know, it's based in India, established in 2018, and they are Atal Bihari Vajpayee Trust Foundation. The work that they do is around social development, sustainable environment, social welfare, and disseminating information, which is what we're doing at this point in time. So it's a non-profit organization, and it's really trying hard to get all this information make it freely available to everybody. So it's contributing a lot to the world. So it would be good if you guys can also contribute something. So I think if you check out their website, you can see there is options for donations. And if you want to share knowledge, you could also get in touch with them and do something similar like what I'm doing. Okay. So moving on, we'll just a quick snippet of what the food industry is. So food industry, it basically deals like with a collection of raw materials and for production and processing of food, followed by selling the foods to the consumers. agriculture was the bedrock of human civilization, and that's when people started settling in one places. Before that, they were all hunter-gatherers, so they were running around and killing animals, and yeah, basically there was not a civilization. So agriculture started that. Industrial revolution started around in the 18th and 19th century with the development of canning and pasteurization. And canning was a very good invention, because people then who were going for wars and during World War and everything, people could use these canned foods, and so pasteurization came as well. This was basically to kill all the harmful bacteria in food products, especially milk. So it basically made the food more safer to consume, and it reduced all the diseases. And after 12,000 years, now the food industry has become like a societal behemoth. It's pushing out a lot of nutritionally deficient food. So I don't want to say a particular brand here, but like your soft drinks, there's a lot of input in the market of like confectionery products like biscuits and chocolates and a lot of things, which are cheaper than fresh vegetables and stuff like that. And they're not really nutritionally beneficial for you. So the food industry has evolved in that way. But there's a lot of future in the food industry. I've just taken 4 examples to help you understand. So food industry uses something like an open innovation. So there's always something they're trying to innovate, and we'll just cover that ahead so you can understand how the food industry helps. There are new functional ingredients. So we're trying to move to a more plant-based diet, because animal-based diet has a protein, but it also has a lot of fat. And this fat will start clogging your arteries and will definitely lead to more heart disease conditions. And also there is a more prevalence towards using more animal-based protein. So these functional ingredients, we call them functional because they go and play a particular function in your body. So we are trying to move towards more of that. Then there is more towards active and intelligent packaging techniques. There's a lot of plastic used in food packagings and things, and how the plastic is really bad for the environment. So we're trying to use more active packaging techniques and active ingredients which can dissolve easily. So you must have seen there is some research where people are developing plastics made from algae and things like that. So basically when it goes into your seawater or your water bodies, it just dissolves easily. So it's not causing any harmful effects on the sea animals. So yeah, so basically that's what it is about. And commercial biosensors for food contaminants. Now, these are the biosensors which will be easy to detect any food contaminant in the product. Usually anything, if you want to check for microbiology of a food product, it can take up to 5 days. That's a very long time. And say if you just consume the food now, and you will know after 5 days that it was contaminated, but you will get sick the next day. So, or the day after that. So usually it takes 24 to 48 hours. So commercial biosensors is something where you would get very rapid analysis of food contaminants. So these are the new techniques and evolutions that's happening in the food industry. So it's looking like a very bright and exciting future to be in. So what is food science? Probably all the students would know, but I can quickly explain to you what it is. So we have, in very simple words, we have agriculture, which is basically getting the food. You have to look at your seed quality and growing your food, okay? And then you have nutrition, so basically what happens to the food when it goes inside your body. In between that is the food science. So it's basically between your agriculture and nutrition. So it brings the food from the farm to the fork or to your table. So that's basically where food science sits. So it will examine the physical nature and the chemical composition of food, study of food behaviors under varying processing and storage conditions. Because, so say you're in India, okay, and you have a very high temperature, and say a particular product will not survive very well. So let's say, for example, milk will not survive very well if you keep it outside your fridge. Whereas I'm here in UK, it's a cold environment, and if I do leave it outside, it should still be okay, especially for chocolates and things. It will not go bad that easily. So food science will probably make some alterations in that food so it can survive longer and it doesn't get contaminated easily at those different conditions. So that's why food science plays such an important role. And the main principles is around handling, processing, and packaging. So this is basically the three sectors where it will mainly work in. There's an example I'll give you how the food science works. So let's take two fat molecules, for example. So we have in one place a chocolate which has a little bit of milk fat in it, okay? We will design it in such a way that the structure of that fat in such a way when you take it or when you eat it, as soon as it reacts with your saliva, it will burst out all the taste, all the flavors and all the sensory flavors that you want to feel while you're eating a chocolate, right? Whereas there is another fat, for example, let's take the fish oil capsules, the 7 C's capsules that you would use, which are high in omega-3. You don't want them to go into your mouth, and you don't want the taste of it because it doesn't taste very good. So you want them to be released in your lower intestine, in your smaller intestine. So we'll design it in such a way that when it reacts to those acids in your small intestine, it will then burst out all the flavors or whatever it is. So that's how basically you will use food science to design the molecule and the models of the food. Okay. And yeah, if you guys have any questions on any of the slides, please make a note of it, and we'll take all the question and answers towards the end. So yeah, we'll do that. So what is a typical day for a food scientist? So I'll quickly run through this. So determine nutritive value, palatability, color, texture, shelf life of food, sensory, biochemical, and microbiological tests. So we'll basically check all of these things so that they are all in a good condition, you know, for you to consume, and they are tasty and everything. So basically they'll do all these tests. Make food more nutritious and nutritionally adequate, make food safe to consume, improve the quality and shelf life, and develop new exciting products and develop novel technologies, which we've already covered. Career prospects. So if anybody's considering a food science and nutrition degree, it's a pre-professional degree. So you can actually go directly into a med school. You can learn QA, like quality assurance. You can go into chemistry, science, and maths, like for biostatistics and things like that. So it is a very well-rounded degree, and you can actually go into different future studies with that. Again, as I mentioned, it's the largest industry in the world. So job-wise, I think you have lots of employers. You have food suppliers, manufacturers, beverage manufacturers, retail, supermarket chains, hospitals, airlines, wine companies, institutions, and research labs. So basically, you've got plethora of options to join in. And these are basically different job roles that you could try when you become a food scientist, or where you get a food science and nutrition degree. So like food policy officers. So basically these are the people who will make the food regulations and laws. Then you have food product development officers, so anybody who's developing new products which would be released in the market. Food microbiologists, so who will check the quality of the food in terms of safety against bacteria and harmful viruses. Food product marketers, so basically who will be marketing food products. Sensory scientists, so these are basically doing sensory analysis on the taste, color, and the form of the food. Food chemists, so doing all the chemical analysis on that. food quality assurance officers, managers, and QA and food technologists. So basically these last two categories are mainly in the food industries, working in the manufacturers or with the suppliers. Okay, so food safety. We're moving on to the next topic, that is food safety. Food safety, I cannot stress on it, but it's very, very important. And especially in today's industry, it is very important because there's so much choice of food that you have. And it's paramount, and there is a large consumer base. So if a restaurant makes a small mistake, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to eat it. Think about a school. If you add something that's not right in your food, there's a lot of children who are going to be eating that food and get really sick. There has been a lot of examples of airline sickness where there was a contamination in the food and the whole of the aircraft became like sick. And imagine if that happens to the pilot, if he's really sick, then it's life-threatening. So that's why food safety is very important. There's a special type of stainless steel. That's why that is used in the food industry. It's the austenitic grade 304 and 316, and they're more hygienic and they prevent the bacterial adhesion. This is the same type of stainless steel which is used in the food industries, which is also used for surgical devices and things. So you can understand why it is so important. You need to cook food at the right temperatures. It's very important, especially for meat. You have to check the chicken. So example, chicken, you have to check with a thermometer right into the center of the chicken, the thickest part. And you have to check if it has reached a certain temperature, which will make sure that the food is properly cooked. There should be no pink chicken. That's like a complete no-no. And then you should have dedicated areas. So you should never handle raw food with like raw meat with cooked meat, because cooked meat is cooked and raw is not. So there's a lot of microorganisms, and cooking can kill a lot of bacteria. So you should always have a designated areas of knives or chopping boards and things like that. So you should never mix them, because it will cause havoc. So yes. So now we'll talk about nutrition. I think balanced diet is very important. So you've got like 5 portions of fruits and vegetables that you should consume daily. This could be 3 fruits and 2 different types of vegetables, but it has to be in the portion. So like 3 strawberries make 1 portion of fruit, like that example. So yes, basically you'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about there. Your base meal should be starchy carbohydrates. So you choose whole grains and high fiber foods. So remember, potatoes, they don't come under vegetables. So they don't come under your 5 portions of fruits and vegetables. Potatoes are considered more as a starchy carbohydrate. So when I say your base meal, where you can see this section is more of your whole grains, your pulses, your potatoes and breads, pasta, etc. Oats, these are your base meals. So that has to be sort of a good level amount in your plate or in your daily diet. Then you have your fruits and vegetables, which I also mentioned, which is also very essential. And they are both the major sort of portions in your daily intake of food. Remember to include dairy as well. If you have dairy intolerance or you're allergic to dairy, then use dairy alternatives like soya milk or almond milk, etc. But always choose anything that is low fat and low sugar. Include protein and beans. So if you can't eat meat, if you're on a vegan diet or you're a vegetarian, then remember to include more beans and pulses and things like that. And fish is very important. It is a good source of protein, but it's also a very good source of omega-3, and it is considered brain food. So, but if you're a vegetarian, you can't consume fish, then you can obviously take like the fish oils and things like that, or something which has similar omega-3 properties. But yeah, it's hard to find in vegetables, but I would definitely recommend 2 portions of fish a week. Then obviously you can see I've left a very small section here for all your sweets and desserts, and we should try and keep that. Like, these are basically your unsaturated fat, unsaturated oils and things. So use them, but try and consume them at a very low quantity. If you can eliminate them completely, then that's obviously the best thing you could do. And hydrate your body. Again, I can't stress this. Water is so important. You have to drink 6 to 8 glasses a day. And this basically is very useful for your own health. And water helps everything function. It helps in your nervous system. It helps in your other body functions, your kidney functions, your liver functions. So water basically helps lets everything move very smoothly inside your body. So please include water in your diet. So this is just an overview. Again, if you wanted a little bit more detail around it in a specific section, we can obviously cover that later. But because I want to make sure that this helps everybody, so I've just given a small sections, an overview of what diets should be for all ages. And I've just covered like the key points here. So children below 5, so like babies and like the ones who are like growing, they really need fresh food. Don't give them processed food. Processed foods are filled with preservatives, and so they'll cause more acidosis in your body, and it's not good. And babies' stomachs are not that strong, so you always have to give them fresh food. Okay. Again, plenty of fluids in form of milk and water. No fizzy drink, no sugary drink at all, but a lot of water for these children who are less than 5 years old. Salt is a complete no-no because the baby's kidneys are not developed, and the salt can cause a havoc on their body. So it's just not a good option at all. And again, as I said, no processed sugar. Vitamin D and calcium and iron are very important, obviously, for their bone development and for their red blood cells, etc. So these 3 are key elements that you have to include in children below 5 years old. Children above 5, so as they approach the 5 years, their diet should include more high fiber foods, and they should be lower in fat. So I've given, again, iron is very important, and you have to limit the salt content. So you can see the children who are 4 to 6 years, there's like 6 to 7 mg of iron a day. And then children who are 7 to 10 years should have 8 to 10 mg a day. And then salt should be only 3 grams per day for children below 11 years. And above 11 years, they could have 6 grams per day, which is same for adults and teenagers as well. So I'll give you some time to just take down that information if you want. Okay, so yeah, so teenagers. Now, teenagers will gain 20% of their adult height and 50% of their adult weight during these adolescent years. So they are basically growing a lot during this year. So their diets are slightly different. So like salt is again 6 grams per day, as I mentioned. 11 to 18 years male should consume an iron level of around 11 mg a day, and the female is around 10 to 15. So the female requirement for iron is higher, okay? Because, yeah, they start reaching that age and then the puberty hits, so they need to have more iron in their body. Calories for boys should be a bit.
Ma'am, 1 minute. Please unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, is that better? Okay, I'll just go back onto the page. Yes. Right. Calories for boys should be between 2,500 to 2,800 kilocalories, and for girls it should be no more than 2,200 per day. The protein levels, so again, now in the teenager years, I think protein and calcium becomes a big part because you'll see a lot of muscle growth and things like that. So you have to have, and then your hair and nail and everything, that sort of helps getting, you know, improvement in that age. So your diet during your teenage years should be very good, because it will basically form a foundation for your adulthood as well. So the protein level should be around 45 to 55 grams per day, and the calcium should be around 800 to 1000 milligrams a day. Now, adults diet, because I know there's a lot of adults here, so I'm just going to cover this information for you. Your diet should be low in fat. I know a lot of adults, they consume whole milk, but to be honest, you don't need that level of fat in your milk. It's good for children above 5 years old, up to age of 11 years. That's it. I think beyond that, you should be consuming semi-skimmed or skimmed milk. So that I wanted to highlight this point, because I know a lot of people, they consume whole milk because they like the richness of it, but it's not good, and it will start clogging and will increase the fat deposits in your body. And I think in terms of fat, you need to be very careful what is good fat and bad fat. Okay, so fat, like say in a butterfruit or in an avocado, is good fat. Fat from desserts and you know, like the saturated fat from frying and, you know, cooking in heavy oils and things, that's bad fat. So you should know the difference in that. Sorry, can you hear me still?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yeah. Low in sugar and salt, and I'll tell you why. Too much sugar and salt in the diet can cause obesity and cardiovascular problems. So as I mentioned, that salt for children under 5 is not good, because their kidneys just can't cope with that much salt. But salt is very crucial in your diet as well. You should not consume more than 6 grams per day. And a lot of people, especially in a lot of our Asian cooking, we do tend to use a lot of salt, and it's not really good. So sugar is a source of energy, but it is added food to drinks and manufacturers. Also, you really need to check your salt content. Your diet should be high in fiber, and that should be around 18 grams per day. And you should consume 5 portions of fruits and veg. So again, if you have any questions on this, we can cover that towards the end. So now food labeling. Now, this information is basically going to help you make the right decisions when you go to a shop and you buy your food. So I'll give you a good overview of how, when you look at your food product and you look at the labels, you can see if this food is good for me or not. So you can be your own. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, great. So nutrition labels. So they help you choose a more balanced diet. So we'll just cover what the nutrition labels cover, but I'll just quickly tell you what it is. You check and control, so you can intake of foods which are high in fat, salt, and added sugar. So basically you can control that by looking at these labels. There are allergen warnings. We'll cover about allergens as well. So these will be very helpful for people who have allergies, because they get this information firsthand. They look at a packet and they can see that information right there. There's a tab on calories. So which is basically you can keep a tab of how much calorie you're consuming in a day, and you can manage your own weight, as I explained. And the calories are represented in the form of energy, which is in kilojoules, which is a kJ, or kilocalories. Then on the labels, you have the macronutrients. Now, these are the main nutrients that you need in your body, which is your fat, which also covers saturated fat, your carbohydrates, which they separate into sugars, protein, and salt. And then your micronutrients, like your vitamins and minerals. Okay. And Nutritional information is provided like per 100 gram or per portion of the food or serving of food. So I'll explain what that is. So you need to be careful when you're looking and what you're looking at. Okay, so this is an example of a food label. It's a nutritional information. So you can see serving size. The serving size is 12 grams. So let's say this is, okay, let's say this is a pack of apples or something, just for example. So one apple, sorry, one apple is say 12 grams, okay? These are probably smaller apples. Then the serving per package is 20. Basically, it means there are 20 apples in that pack. So the total weight of that the whole pack is 240 grams, okay? Now, the next is very important you need to see is quantity per serve. So that means per serve is 12 grams. So if you're eating one apple, you're basically consuming that many calories. But usually, some of the labels will not show this value. They'll only show quantity per 100 grams because it's easier to quantify. So when they show quantity per 100 grams, you need to basically divide it and check. So if you were to consume, so let's say you need to consume almost around 10 to 9 apples to then have that much energy. So this is basically where you can check, this is kilojoules, so you'll also have kilocalories, and that basically tells you how much calorie you're consuming, and that's how you count it. This is the protein content, which is 0.2 per apple, let's say, per gram. Then there is fat. You'll have total fat, and then you have saturated fat, which is part of the total amount. So you can see there's no saturated fat in my apple. So that is a good thing, okay? And you do need a little bit of fat, so that's good. Then you have carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, that's the total, and 3 is the sugars out of it, so which is the free sugar that's available, and that's 3 grams. So it's not bad, it's good, okay? Then sodium. Sometimes they write sodium or they put salt as well. So sodium is so don't get scared by the number because this is milligrams. And
again, please present.
okay.
Participants, please don't present.
Resume. Okay. Resume presenting. Yeah. Yeah, sorry guys. Keeps doing that. Okay. Right. Then there's calcium and there's, let me take that out. Okay, there's calcium, then there's magnesium, phosphorus, and potassium. So these are all your minerals from calcium, and they're all specified in micrograms. Okay. Okay, so it's a quiz time. So you can write on your message. I'll give you like 15 seconds, and I'll just explain quickly. So looking at what you have learned so far, and what do you think? So you can either type A or B. What do you think, which one is the healthier label? And I'll explain to you later if you can't get the answer, but just try. So you can see here, that's the energy, that's the fat, saturates, sugar, salt, and that's the energy, fat, saturates, sugar, salt. Which label do you think is healthy? So I'll give you 10 seconds to think, and then I'll tell you which one it is. Okay, so it's
Most of the person
have you all submitted your answer?
yes, most of the person submitted A.
Okay, right. Okay, the answer is actually B, because I know you can see a lot of green here, which would probably be your natural tendency to think, but if you actually look at it, there are some yellows, and I'll tell you what this yellow. So this type of coding is called traffic light labeling, and I'll explain to you. But if you look at the sugar, 34 grams, that's quite high, okay? And the saturates is 5.9 grams, but it's still 30%, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. Yeah, but sorry, it's a bit complicated, but I know a lot of people would think because there's a lot more green here, so A is right, but it's actually B, which is more healthy. You can also see the total calories as well. 250. So it's a good place to start if you're confused. Okay. So traffic light labeling. So basically, at the front of your pack, you will have this information, and this is basically that will help you make an informed decision. So there's energy, fat, saturated fat, which is part of that, sugars, and salt. Okay. So the recommended format is the red, amber, green color coding, which looks like a traffic light. And then there is reference intakes. Green is a healthier choice. Okay, so that means it's low in these things because these are all, let's say, bad things you don't want in your diet. You don't want to have that many of it. Okay, so these are the bad things. So let's say that. And this is basically low in it. So that's a good thing. It's a healthier choice when you're choosing anything which has low or green color. Amber, it is neither low, it's neither high. So if you have all of them amber, it's still okay. So you can still eat it. And red is bad. So you should eat. It's not that you should not eat it. You can eat it, but eat it less often. And these percentages on the bottom are reference intakes. So I'll just tell you what it is quickly. So reference intakes is basically, they're not the targets, but they're like guidelines. So they tell you that, okay, if you consume this particular food, so let's say this one, okay? So if you've consumed this food, you've actually consumed 38% of your required daily amount of the sugar. So the next food that you're going to have, try and choose a less sugar containing food. So that's basically what it tells you, that out of the 100%, you've consumed 4% of the fat. So you still have a lot more things to try on which has more fat. And fiber is important, and it's not mentioned here, but you need to have 30 grams of fiber in it. Okay, so this is another quiz. Again, I'll just take 10 seconds, we'll be quickly. This is calorie intake and equal to total energy requirement. So say if you have a total energy requirement. Okay. Okay, so let's say you have a total energy requirement of, say, 1,000 calories, okay? And your calorie intake is equal. Will you lose weight or will you be equal? You know, if you have a calorie intake of, say, 1,000, total energy requirement of 1,000, but your calorie intake is more than 1,000, will you gain weight or will you lose weight? And the third one is, your total energy requirement is 1,000 and your calorie intake is less than that, 1,000. So who do you think, A, B, C, who will lose weight? I'll give you 10 seconds again. And the right answer is C. Okay, so if basically your calorie intake is less than what you actually need, your total energy requirement, you will lose weight. So if you ever want to try and lose weight, remember to reduce your calorie intake. So reduce the amount of food that you're eating, and then you will eventually lose weight. But remember to include more nutritious food in your diet. So that's basically what it is about. I'm a little bit conscious around the time, so I'm going to try and whisk through it. But if you have any questions, please, you can contact me and ask me any questions later on. That's fine. So that's basically what total energy requirement and physical activity is. So that's what I explained to you. Okay, so this is basically the main line. So if you, in order to lose weight, you have to use more energy than you consume. And you can do it in two ways. You can either consume less calories or you can work out more. You can do more exercise and that will burn your calories. Okay? Because if you're consuming more calories, it will be converted into fat. It will not be used by your body to do all the amazing functions that it performs. We covered about allergens just briefly, but let me just give you a quick overview. There are like 14 main allergens, and there are people who suffer from allergies. Allergies are where people can get allergic reaction and they can even die. So like somebody has a peanut allergy, if he eats peanut or if there's any food which has a little bit of peanut in it, he will get allergic reaction. The face will get swollen up and they can even die. Intolerances, on the other hand, is where you won't have an allergic reaction, but you'll have some discomfort. Okay, you will produce acid and things like that. So it won't help that way. Meal plans and food choices. Now, some people believe that if you decide and plan your meals ahead of time, it's easier to have a more nutritious diet. And I've just given, again, an overview of what meal plans is. But again, if you want more information, you can obviously look at my website around it and you can see what it is. So meal plans give you variety. It will save you money because there's no food wastage. You'll not buy a lot more than you need. It saves time when you're cooking on everyday basis. It prevents wastage, and you also eat healthy. So basically, what is meal planning? You choose a recipe. So say you want to plan for the whole week, okay? And you will choose, say, 7 recipes or 14 recipes or whatever. Okay, so you choose your recipes, then you list down all your ingredients, then you buy those ingredients, and you prep your ingredients. So you take out an hour, say on a Sunday, and you prep all your ingredients. So like you chop all your vegetables and you keep it as per your each recipe that's required. It saves a lot. I know it is time consuming on that day, but it saves long term on that week. It saves a lot of time, and you have everything new to try as well. So you can choose a recipe, so something that you know, and one new one. So that way you can introduce more variety in your food. This is the last of the slides, diet and disease prevention. I just want to give you a quick outline of what diseases are there, which are usually caused by poor diet and if you're not eating very healthy. So obviously obesity is the biggest one, which you all know about. And in 2016, there was data released by WHO, which says over 650 million people, they are obese. Okay, so that's a very large number if you think about it. And in 2019, the latest data, it shows 38 million children under age of 5 were found to be obese and overweight. So, and these are the people, these are children I was talking to you earlier about that they should be eating fresh food, but nowadays, because of people's busy schedules and people not aware of what nutrition is and how they should give it so much importance, they're feeding their children preserved foods and preserved food and processed food, which is causing obesity in these children, and it's shocking. It's very concerning. So numbers have been rising since the last 25 years. So it has not declined at all. It has just been rising year after year. And greater risk of angina, heart disease, diabetes, and then there's some cancers and lower back and joint pains. So obesity can cause all of these things. Then there's heart disease, there's bad cholesterol, which I was talking to you about, the fat. It basically will go and collect in your blood vessel, it will harden it, and it will restrict your blood flow, which will then cause angina, and in serious cases could also lead to heart attacks and strokes. So that's where you really need to watch what you're eating, because now you will not see how it will affect you, but as the time goes, because you will start putting in good things in your body from now on, you will see the improvement over the time. If you keep putting bad stuff in your body, you will see the effects of it as well. Cancers. Obese persons are 50% more likely to develop a colon cancer. And then obviously there's other types of cancers like lung cancers, throat cancers, which happens by smoking and this and that. So yes, you know about that, but I'm just talking about mainly the colon cancers, which can happen for generally 50% of the population. And I've seen the older generation, they don't take care of their bodies and they don't take care of their nutrition because they're so busy with work and everything else. So you really need to make sure that you take care of yourself. You do sufficient physical activity and you eat proper food. And diabetes. Persons, these are the people who are unable to use the glucose properly, and diabetes can lead to blindness, kidney failure, foot ulcerations, and nerve damage. And in extreme cases, heart diseases as well. Now, type 2 diabetes is strongly linked to obesity. So type 2 diabetes is basically that, because your body cannot utilize the insulin properly, and it is reduced, but you can definitely reduce all of these diseases and effects and everything if you start with a proper diet and exercise. So it's never too late, and you can always start it. And I've seen a lot of cases where people have literally cured themselves of a lot of these problems, and some people have made it so much better for themselves that everything else that they had completely gone or disappeared. We could take some question and answers now, if you want. I don't know how you guys want to do that. Hello?
Yes.
So do we want to take some question and answers now?
Yeah.
Okay. And any of your questions, if they're not answered during this session, you can get in touch with me. You can find us on Facebook under NutriBoom Sonali. You can find me there. You can find me on Instagram. We've also got a YouTube channel at NutriBoom, or you can just go to my website and then see there's all the information is there. If there's anything that you've not understood during this webinar, you can get in touch with me or Abhav Foundation, and they'll pass me on your questions. And oh, I forgot to tell you all. And for some of the lucky winners who have answered the quizzes correctly, and I would like to give, and for your attendance as well, I'd like to give some of you a free nutrition and wellness ebook from NutriBoom. So I will take your details from Abhav Foundation, or I'll give them the code and you can contact me directly and I'll send them to you. Okay, so how do we take the question and answers?
किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन हो तो कृपया अपना माइक जो है अनम्यूट करके क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हैं.
Hello, ma'am. I have one question.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am. I have one question.
Yes, please. Yes.
Taking apple cider vinegar is harmful or not?
Sorry, taking what?
1 teaspoon apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, apple cider vinegar is good. It's good for you, but you need to make sure that you are consuming it on an empty stomach and you are diluting it properly. People usually think it's acidic, but actually apple cider vinegar, when it reacts into your body, it becomes alkaline. So it's actually good. It helps with your digestive system. There is a little bit of, how would I say, the people do say that it helps you lose weight and everything, but that's not entirely true, but it actually helps with your digestive health. So it is a good thing to take, but take it on empty stomach and make sure you dilute it properly with water. So it's usually 1 part of apple cider vinegar with 4 parts of water. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Ma'am, what people with gluten intolerance can include in their diet?
People with what? Sorry.
Gluten intolerance.
Okay. Yeah. So I also don't eat a lot of gluten. It's also, if you can eliminate gluten in your diet, it also helps you lose weight. There are a lot of gluten-free alternatives. I think anything that is not bread, so like fruits and vegetables, is obviously good. But if you are craving for gluten, so like if I want to eat a chapati or roti, I would use the moong dal chilla I've got a recipe of that as well on my website. You can check. So you can eat that instead of that. And brown rice is also a very good alternative to gluten because it is quite high in fiber. Because obviously when you're eliminating gluten from your diet, your fiber content will go down because you need to try and match that up. So include more green leafy vegetables in your diet, and include more brown rice in your diet. That's all good. White rice, I would not recommend because it has a very high glycemic index, and it does not have, it is quite processed. So all the, the cover, the kernel is basically the brown rice. The cover has been all removed. It's been processed. That's why it looks white. So all the fiber has been removed. It tastes good, but I think it's an acquired taste. You will get used to it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
I am Deepanita Devna from North Bengal University, research scholar of the science department.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, what's your question?
What foods must we include in our diet that will meet our daily food needs?
What food should be included in our diet which will, okay. So as I mentioned on this, on this slide here, you can see that this one, you can see this is basically will tell you what food you should include in your diet to have a proper balanced diet. So you should have 5 portions of fruits and vegetables daily.
Okay.
Your base meal should be starchy carbohydrates like your whole grains, like rice, bread, pasta, potatoes, etc. You should have some dairy as well in your diet, but make sure it's low fat and low sugar, and more protein and unsaturated fatty acids. So like oils and things like olive oil is good, canola oil is good, and a lot of water in your diet. So that basically will give you a good overall, balanced diet. Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, I have a question about allergies.
Okay.
So, people nowadays having allergies to besan, that is chana dal, lentils, and some are having allergies to fruits and vegetables. So it was not happening earlier. I mean, back in the 70s or 80s, let's say. But it is happening nowadays. I mean, more people are intolerant to, let's say, gluten or dairy intolerance. So, what is the science behind this that nowadays people are, more allergic or intolerant to food and ingredients?
Yeah, I think it has allergies and all a lot to do with your genetic makeup as well. Okay, like they say a lot of Asian people are actually intolerant to dairy. And so that's why we feel like a little, we get that acid reflux, or we get, gas issues and things like that. So I think the awareness has increased towards it. And if you're saying about certain fruits and vegetables, so like, yes, celery is one of the vegetables which is considered an allergen, but these are the main, like 14 main allergens. But then there are other allergens as well that people are prone to it. And it's only because over the time when you stop consuming it, your genes, because allergens are basically proteins, okay? And it's an enzymic reaction inside your body. So if your body does not have, like, say, a device to break that protein, it will recognize it as a foreign body, or like a bacteria is a foreign body. And that's why you get cough and cold, and, so it's allergen is basically the same thing. It's a food, but your body cannot recognize it as food and recognizes it as a foreign body, and so it starts reacting towards it. So eventually, I think when you start eliminating a lot of things from your diet, and this is what has happened. I think back then, people used to eat a large variety of food, and in some places, because of the geographical regions, they would grow a certain amount of food, so they'll eat that, and other places they won't. So your genetic makeup is in that way. But nowadays, because of the advance of the food industry, everything is processed, everything is packaged. You're getting very less different varieties of food, in terms of nutrition. And that is why some of your genes are, they just get mute because you're not using them. Okay. So they're muted. And that's why you're getting these allergic reactions. And I think people have become more aware. So these might be happening back then as well, but there was not so much awareness around it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you about diets such as keto. Like, what's your opinion on diets where they promote more of fat and less of, carbohydrates, and like where you're absolutely cutting down the carbs and increasing your fat content?
Okay. So these are like the fad diets, okay? And I'm not saying they don't work. They work, but they are not sustainable. They will work for a very short duration until you're doing it, because your body gets used to that sort of thing, okay? So, sorry, can you mute it? Can you mute your mic now? I think it's because there's a little bit of disturbance. Okay, I'll say if you have any question, then you can unmute it again. So yeah, so basically what happens is when you start these specific diets, especially keto, okay, they tell you to eat more fat, and they completely, like, your carbohydrate level needs to be less than 20 grams or something, and your protein should be a certain level, and it's quite a high fat and high protein diet. Your body gets used to that certain element of dieting, and it will start producing ketones in your body. Your body goes into the ketosis state, and it feels so carbohydrates is basically what? It's the best source of energy. It's glucose, right? If somebody wants to do a run or something, they'll eat carbohydrates, they'll get the sudden boost of energy. When you don't give that to the body thinks that you don't have this source of energy. So what it starts doing is it will start eating up your fats and everything from your body, whatever's remaining there, it will start consuming that. So initially, you will start losing fat. But this is not a diet that you do for a lifetime, right? So you will do it for a week or 2 weeks or a month, and then you stop, okay? And then you go back to your usual diet. And everything that you've lost comes back quickly and at a very high fall. So I would not recommend to do these diets because they are not sustainable for long term, and you also deprive your body of a lot of essential nutrients. So a balanced diet is obviously the best way to do it. And if you really want to lose weight, then follow the total energy consumption and the physical activity and the calorie intake chart. And I have actually done a blog on my website on that, which tells you about the calculations and things like that. So you can actually do it yourself. So that's a more healthier way to lose weight. And remember, losing weight should be done at a constant pace and at a slightly longer duration. If you lose weight too quickly, you gain it back as well at the same amount. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I actually wanted to, since you have done your master's at Leeds, I also hold an offer from Leeds University. So
Okay,
I basically, thank you so much. So I basically wanted to know, like, what
Hello,
is the
ma'am.
difference
In
between,
less time.
hello,
sorry?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry,
Yeah,
there
there
was
was
like,
someone in between.
yeah, there's a crossover.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry,
So
what
yeah,
was your question?
basically wanted to know like what is the difference between masters in food science and masters in food science and nutrition.
Okay, so University of Leeds is actually the only university, I think probably in the world, I would say, which integrates both the food science and nutritional science in their course. So as I explained to you, food science is basically everything that happens between agriculture and nutrition. And then nutrition is basically what happens to the food when it goes inside your body. So if you're just doing the food science course, it will equip you with all the knowledge of biochemistry, food analytics, microbiology, anatomy, not anatomy, chemistry and things like that. So it will tell you how you can develop food, how you can change the chemical structure and things like that. But when you also include, there is a little bit element of nutrition in it, but when you do a course with the nutrition science, then it will also include more of the anatomy and physiology of how the food will react in your body inside, and which foods or how you can manipulate the ingredients to react in a certain way inside your body. So it will basically give you a better overview. It will cover two sections of that chart I showed in the first slide. I think it was, this one. Yeah. So basically, it will give you this one and this section as well. It will cover both of them for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Ma'am, can you suggest some good diet for gastric patients, especially in the morning? Like even the teenagers are having so much gastric issues. So can you suggest something?
Yeah. So I think most of, these issues like bloating and then gastric issues, these are usually happening because your diet is more prevalent in acid-based foods. And if you are consuming a diet which is has more acid in it, then yes, it basically reacts in this way. And your body will have a way of trying to prevent this acid from spreading into the external sort of, into your nerves, into your blood vessels and things like that. So it will also prevent you from losing weight as well. So you usually see people who suffer a lot from gastric issues and things are usually slightly overweight, because that's a body's way of protecting your body. So it will not help you release the acid into it. So it will store it under the fat cells. So that's why it will enclose your acid into the fat cells. You should opt for more alkaline foods. And there are a lot of foods, like lemons are good. I know people think they're acidic. Again, it's not. It's more towards an alkaline nature. And then there's a lot of green leafy vegetables as well, which are more alkaline. I could do a blog on my website to give you a whole list, or you can search on Google as well, which are more alkaline food, and that basically will help you balance it out. And will help you. And apple cider vinegar is also another good one to consume in the empty stomach. So you can check that, and you can probably make sure that your diet is more alkaline rather than more acid based.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Do we have any more questions?
Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation today. Webinar was excellent as well as informative. We appreciate the insights. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you want to lend us your support, you can donate to us via our website donation link, https://www.abhav.in/donate. Even the smallest donation will help us a lot in our efforts. Attendance code is 40. Any further questions?
Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. ये अटेंडेंस नहीं ओपन नहीं हो रही है परमिशन मिलती है
नहीं, अगेन ट्राई करिए, अभी हो रही है।
मैं ट्राई कर चुके नहीं हो रहा था
नाउ इट्स वर्किंग। थैंक यू मैम।
Thank you all. Thanks all for attending. And I hope you found it quite informative. And yeah, if you feel you had any questions and you want to ask it personally or something, then yeah, you can always get in touch with me or at Abhav Foundation, and I'll send your free gift away as well. Okay. I hope you all have a nice weekend and happy Saturday to all of you.
थैंक यू अगेन आपको। सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स को भी मैं धन्यवाद करता हूँ जिन्होंने पेशेंटली थोड़ा बहुत टेक्निकल प्रॉब्लम आने के बाद भी जुड़े रहे, और स्पेशली मनाली में जिन्होंने अपनी इतनी बिजी शेड्यूल में से हमको समय दिए, अपनी डिटेल्ड में इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोवाइड किए। आप उनके इंस्टाग्राम और फेसबुक पेज में भी जाके उनकी सारी इंफॉर्मेशन गैदर कर सकते हैं। NutriBoom नाम से एक पेज भी है, ग्रुप भी है, और इंस्टाग्राम में एक प्रोफाइल भी है, तो उसको जाके आप उसमें रिफर कर सकते हैं। सारे फूड के लिए इथिकल इंफॉर्मेशन आपको वहाँ मिल जाएगी। साथ ही साथ एक वेबसाइट भी हमको, उस पर भी आप जाके इंफॉर्मेशन गैदर कर सकते हैं। थैंक यू सोनाली मैम।
Thank you. Nice meeting you all. Thanks. Bye. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
सभी जो है वो अटेंडेंस कोड सबमिट करेंगे, तभी उनको हम सर्टिफिकेट प्रोवाइड कर पाए। आपको हमारी वेबसाइट पे जाना है, वेबसाइट पे लिंक दी हुई है। आज की प्रोग्राम की जो फ्लायर है, पोस्टर है, उसको डबल टैप करना है। डबल टैप करेंगे तो आपको फीडबैक फॉर्म अवेलेबल होगी, उसको आपको क्लिक करके फिल करना है। फिर आपको एज सुन एज आपको सर्टिफिकेट प्रोवाइड कर दी जाएगी। दीपिका टेको।
Abhi, you can get the PPT via the YouTube only. You can see the complete in YouTube only. Today's code Saba is 44040.